I chose the best friend's brother. The first time I realized I was in trouble was the moment his hand brushed mine. It was such a small thing, barely more than an accident, yet it sent a jolt straight into my chest. That weekend, I was supposed to be relaxing at my best friend Hannah's family cabin, celebrating her birthday in peace. But when she was called away to deal with a family emergency, it ended up just being me and Daniel, her older brother. Twice my age and freshly divorced, off limits in every possible way. My life before that weekend had been comfortably predictable. I was 34, running my small interior design business, married once and divorced now for 3 years. Hannah had been my rock through the fallout, late night wine, tearful talks, and laughter that kept me from breaking. I believed I had moved on completely, that love was something I had had my share of. And now I could live without the drama. I was content with work, friendships, and the occasional date that led nowhere serious. My heart felt safe behind the walls I had built. But then came that night at the cabin, when the firelight painted gold on the walls, and his presence shifted something inside me. The inciting incident came without warning. We'd been talking, sharing harmless stories about the past, when I asked him about his divorce. His face shadowed, and he told me she had left without saying much, taking her things while he was away on a fishing trip. He was still raw, still carrying it like fresh bruises. I felt a pang of empathy so sharp it almost made me reach out until I realized my urge wasn't purely comfort. It was something else, something heavier. That moment cracked open a door I didn't want open. The hours after that were dangerous. I started noticing all the details I had never given a second thought. The way his hazel eyes locked onto mine when I spoke, the warmth of his deep laugh that seemed to come from somewhere vulnerable, the steady way he poured wine into my glass without asking. But it was the accidental touch, my hand on the counter, his reaching for the corkscrew, that undid me. Skin on skin, a gentle pressure, and suddenly I was aware of everything. The smell of cedar from the crackling fire, the faint taste of dry red wine on my tongue, the low hum of night crickets outside, and the thump of my heartbeat slowing, then speeding again. The rising hours of tension became almost unbearable. Alone in that cabin, every sound echoed. The creak of floorboards when he walked, the splash of dishwater in the sink, the subtle intake of breath when our eyes met, like perhaps neither of us knew what to do next. I went to bed, but sleep wouldn't come. The moonlight across the quilt was pale silver, and I stared at it while replaying moments in my mind. The metallic taste of tears came when I let myself remember my own betrayal. That December night, 5 years ago, when I had found texts on my then-husband's phone, messages laced with intimacy that wasn't mine. The same hollow ache was now mingled with curiosity, fear, and attraction I hadn't felt in years. Daniel was nothing like my ex, gentler, more deliberate. Yet there was a quiet intensity about him that drew me closer. I caught myself thinking about how it might feel to let that intensity touch me completely. The thing was, he wasn't mine to want. He belonged in a mental image of people you cannot cross lines with, because breaking that unspoken loyalty to Hannah could destroy our friendship. Yet in those shadowed hours, I also could not stop feeling how badly I wanted more accidental touches, more lingering gazes. The next day, we cooked breakfast in silence, music playing softly from his phone, old folk songs that made the air feel warm and nostalgic. When his arm brushed against my side, I didn't move away, and he didn't either. Later, we sat on the porch, and I told him things I hadn't told anyone in years. About the grief after my divorce, about how every room I decorated was partly an attempt to fix what I couldn't fix in myself. He listened with a stayness that made me feel seen. If this confession has you holding your breath and wondering what we did next, hit like and share, because you will not believe how that afternoon changed everything. When Hannah still hadn't returned by evening, we settled into another round of wine by the fire. The glow made him look younger, though I could still see the years etched near his eyes, the kind of lines carved by both laughter and pain. At one point, he stood and came back with a blanket, wrapping it around my shoulders without a word. The fabric was soft, smelled faintly of wood smoke and pine, and when his fingers lingered just a second too long, my resolve faltered. "Do you ever feel like you're done being careful?" he asked suddenly. The question was like stepping into an unlit room. I swallowed, feeling the cotton edge of the blanket under my hands, the warmth of it melting the night's chill. "Maybe," I said, almost a whisper. He looked at me for a long moment, and I understood we were both standing at the threshold of something we hadn't planned. The danger was real. We could lose the people we loved over what was happening. But the pull was stronger than the fear. I remember leaning back and closing my eyes, the crackle of the fire wrapping around us, the scent of burning cedar sharp and sweet. He did not move closer, not then, but his gaze was on me like he could read everything I was feeling. Over the next few days, nothing overt happened, yet every shared look felt loaded. Every conversation simmered with unspoken words. I found myself laughing more, feeling light in ways I had forgotten I could feel. When Hannah returned, we stepped back into safer roles, but the lines between us had already shifted. Weeks later, back in the city, he texted me, "Just thinking about the cabin." My breath caught in my throat. That text was a second chance unfolding, and I knew I could ignore it. But I didn't want to. We met for coffee under the pretense of catching up about her birthday. But when he walked in, the hum of the cafe faded. We didn't touch. We didn't need to. That night, after I went home, I realized my loneliness had become something else entirely. Hope. I had believed the door to love was shut for me. But standing there in his quiet gaze, I could see it opening again. And though stepping through it might mean defying rules, risking friendships, rewriting everything I thought was settled, I found myself ready. If you crave more raw emotional confessions, please like, share, and subscribe. Your next chapter awaits.